Was the idea of unconditional love, and you'd be surprised how many people don't know that concept. The idea that someone would love you no matter what. Whether you made a mistake, whether you have a certain identity, whether you have a certain belief. Um, the idea that you could do something wrong and not be loved. And I think that's a mistake. Even in religions, we sometimes make our love or even God's love conditional. But to start this one, I want to flip it around a bit. Can we learn to love ourselves unconditionally? But when we're exploring this idea and the idea of loving yourself, you have to ask, is loving yourself allowing you to do whatever you want? Because we know there are things that are good for us, and there are things that are not good for us, things that are beneficial and not beneficial. The problem is, though, as a human being, we don't always really know what's good for us. And the more even stressed out or under pressure or frustrated, we actually see less clearly. And so maybe it means we do need others to sometimes give us advice. And maybe we do need to listen to others to even know what's good for us. Because a human being doesn't always know what's good for them always, in every situation. Even though we like to feel that we do. It's this pride we have. Love yourself without conditions. And I start with a quote by Aubrey Marcus. It's, to me, a quote about perspective. And really reminds me how we need others to see things better and to have a better perspective and to sometimes look through their eyes. But the quote is, want to learn to see better? Learn to see through everyone's eyes. Often people, especially teens, think of love and they think of the feelings they get when they like someone or even are attracted to them. And love is not really about feeling close, but about being close. And by this I mean getting to know someone and accepting someone for who they are. But again, it's also about wanting to see them be the best version of themselves they could be. And that sometimes doesn't mean always getting what you want. Sometimes it means not doing certain things or being even given advice or criticism. This requires the patience, though, of getting to know someone and the time and even the uncomfortableness that often comes along with the intimacy and accepting someone for who they are always, not simply during the fun times or good times and pleasure and when things are going right. Unconditional love is a complex concept because it sometimes means we need to unwrap our fingers from around our desires, let go of them, and even of what we want out of someone in return in a relationship, or even our judgment, to let go of our judgment, or even knowing when it's right to give people advice, and even having things go the way we want them to. We can't always expect that. So in many ways, it's learning to both love, but also to let go. Our mothers are usually examples of models of unconditional love. They go through incredible physical pain to give childbirth and then continue giving their love, ideally, right? Usually. We do have mothers who are not capable of doing that, and there are many reasons why. But they continue giving their love and care many times beyond the point of exhaustion. They give of their body, they give food, nourishment, and they do everything for that baby when we're just born. And if it's not our biological mother, then somebody took care of us or helped to. When the child's constantly screaming, crying, pooping, and eating, all with little in return, right? We love that baby, so we do it because we love it. We don't do it to expect anything in return. So that's a picture of me and my mama when I was little. It's a reality that some people have been hurt by their mother and their caregiver, or abandoned by them, right? And that's something very, very difficult. They may require more work in understanding the concept of unconditional love then, though most likely we experience it in some form from a friend or a loved one or a teacher or a coach, family member. Most of us have a version of conditional love, though, even the best of us. And some of us just forget to express unconditional love, to remind our family and friends and kids. Sometimes parents who love their children unconditionally, which means no matter what, they forget to show it or get so caught up in who or what they want their children to become. And they mean well, they want them to be successful. But they get so caught up they send the wrong messages to their kids, so the kids may end up feeling unsupported or unloved. Or if I do this or become that or disagree with my mom or dad about this or that, they won't love me anymore. Sometimes we may mean well, but we use our love as a bargaining chip to try to make a person go or even grow in a certain way, which, you can't really force people into doing what's good for them. And When they're a kid, sometimes you do need to use a little force, or even we punish our kids to teach them. But even the word punishment, when you look it up, it's to discipline. I mean, the word discipline is to punish in order to teach, though. So oftentimes we punish our kids to teach them, not just because we're punishing them, but we teach because we love. That's another thing someone recently told me. In order to be a teacher and to teach someone something, you need to love them. And there's so much involved in that relationship, and overcoming frustration and wanting to try to see their point of view and express it in a way that they can understand. But the love for someone, or the threat of losing someone's love, should never be used to control others. And we do that sometimes, even in relationships. Not only is unconditional models, sometimes the love of God is described in many religions. Not only is the unconditional model helpful for learning how to love others and to love better, but it's a very important reminder of how we should treat ourselves, love ourselves. Unconditional love is not only a model for how to treat others, but a model of how to begin treating ourselves. We sometimes bargain with our own love or approval or acceptance or other things in our own lives, with the things we want to achieve in school, in our careers, making money, or athletic pursuits, or other things that we enjoy. We sometimes bargain with who we wish to become, or in the ways we wish to look. How can we gain a different perspective about how we view ourselves? And so I did a little exercise several years ago with some students, and I said, think of someone you love. And I'd say, especially younger kids, don't think of someone who you're dating. Think of someone who's been there forever and are always going to be there. A best friend, family member. Usually romantic love is conditional, because usually it's I love you very, very powerfully if you love me back and stay with me. So step 2 is to think of how much that person meant to you and how much you love them and how much you know them and how you'd do anything for them. You love this person. And then I said, think of their flaws. Do you love them despite those flaws? Do you love them anyway? If they gained 30 pounds or lost 30 pounds, would you still love them? Yeah, you would. If they made a mistake or had a bad habit or did something bad, would you still love them? Yes. In fact, for many, even if they committed a crime or even murdered someone, you still would love them. You would be scared, confused, not be happy about it. You know they ruined their life as well as took another, but you'd still love them. It would break your heart, but your love is unconditional. Now that doesn't mean you don't care, that you shouldn't improve, that you shouldn't want to make yourself healthy and happy, because that's what loving yourself means, to work towards being the best version of yourself you can be. But parents generally and nearly always love their kids no matter what. They get angry, they get upset, they worry, and they enforce rules and boundaries. But they don't stop loving their kids. Almost always they eventually get over their own ego, or time passes and whatever they're mad about, they get over it, and they get over their inability to let go or open up to love and be more accepting. But as a younger person, sometimes it does feel like our parent takes their love away, or we're afraid we won't get it back when they're upset. But sometimes this just needs more time and more work. The point of the exercise to make a student really think about someone they love is to get them to understand that people feel the same way about them. We want to see ourselves the way others love us and the way we love them. Why? Because, as another post described, Change the Station, it was about how we have these radio stations in our head telling us stories and repeating things like you're ugly, you're stupid, you can't do this. We often have these negative thoughts and begin bargaining with accepting ourselves. Like, oh, I'll be happy if I lose weight, or oh, if I achieve this or make more money, then I'll be happy. And we beat ourselves up. Sometimes we can be so hard on ourselves that it can get in the way of our confidence. We can be self-loathing. I've beat ourselves up. I've done that. Living miserably and not in the moment. We feel sad or depressed about our past or things we cannot change. We worry obsessively about our future, or even delay happiness until some future event. When I earn this much, like I said, or when I lose this much weight, or when I finally do this, then I'll be happy. Or then I'll be mindful, or then I'll break my bad habit. These are some of the reasons we need to remind ourselves how to love, to forgive, and be okay with ourselves. This is the way we need to remind ourselves in stressful or difficult moments, that we love ourselves, and to look out for what's best for us the way we love others. We need to keep reminding ourselves and working on how to love others, not with conditions, not with past regrets, not with future expectations. But this is also how, like we're saying here, it's how we need to learn to look at, love, and accept ourselves. Sometimes we get so mixed up and mired with our own issues, our ego trips, our emotional baggage from the way we grew up, our painful experiences, our pain, our real pain, our disappointments or regrets, or we're stuck so tightly in our own worldview without flexibility or without balance that we forget how to just simply love and be accepting and want what's good for us and for others. It's written, "Judge not lest you be judged," and I find sometimes the reverse is true. Because we judge ourselves so harshly and we are more judgmental of others as a result. The more we judge ourselves, the more we're in the judging mindset. I found that the more I've worked on my own heart and mind just to stop judging myself, the more I've learned to accept and not judge others as well. Unconditional love is a wonderful model. Like I said, most religions have a God or a figure that is supposed to be the model, the ideal version of love and sacrifice and unconditional caring. But that unconditional love is a wonderful model to help us shake off our hearts a bit and pay closer attention to simply being okay with what is and loving without attachment, without conditions, or having only things work on our terms. Because it's difficult to love when things are not going the way you'd wished or hoped. Right? So even in our own lives, it's difficult when we're not our best, and it's really hard to look out and love ourselves and do what's right for ourselves when we're in a rut or have a bad habit or bad mistakes we've made in our lives that have led to bad living conditions. So why bother considering love? Because learning to love is learning to be more human, more aware, and more in touch with yourself and others, more centered and balanced in life. And so we can find and recognize the obstacles in our way of our ability to love well, and be happy. But again, just like judging, I think the more we learn to love others, the more we truly can learn to take care of and love and do good things for ourselves. And we learn from the experience. Nobody's perfect. And we're always trying to find our balance in stress, doing the right thing, managing bad habits, mistakes, fears of the future. It's important to take time to observe our lives, noticing it when we've gone too far or not far enough for too long. Oftentimes, if we don't attend to finding our balance, life has a way of punching us in the gut and forcing us, often more painfully, to find it the hard way. These are my two dogs I had before. They're so sweet. In addition, when loving yourself, loving others requires supporting someone actively and learning to accept and care for them, not just saying it, but actively doing it. This is going to take practice and hard work, especially if our own models of love were broken growing up, or if they were incomplete or missing altogether. It may require the pain and drudgery of gently peeling away the fingers of ego trips that keep us from loving better. And so this takes time. This takes honesty and getting to know someone, even getting to know yourself. And it takes a lot of hard work. Often it also takes patience, vulnerability, and even some faith to do so. And things that I'm learning as I'm getting older is it takes stillness. If you're doing thing to the next thing to the next thing and constantly busy or constantly watching movies or on games or always when there's noise around, and if you're not still and silent, it's very hard to love and to find the balance. Think of being on a balancing ball and how difficult it is. You have to concentrate so much on staying balanced and not falling off. And you see, in order to catch your balance eventually and stand on that balancing ball, you actually need to stop for a moment. And once you find your balance, stop moving. And I've noticed in life, it's very similar. You sometimes have to stop moving to really see what you can do differently and to get a better perspective of your life. But that wasn't written here. So don't forget, just because you're loved unconditionally, though, it doesn't mean there are no consequences for your actions. So just because your parents love you or your teachers love you or your spouse loves you, there are still rules. There are still boundaries. And there are still ways in which we must accept responsibility for both our actions and our decisions, as well as how we treat others and the decisions we make that affect others. Loving yourself clearly does not mean thinking only of yourself with no consequences and having whatever you want and no consideration of others. Because in the end, that's going to end badly. If you love yourself, you don't want to do things that'll end badly. So anyway, they're tough ideas, it says, but it's also not always easy to explain. But most importantly, I try to ask and remind myself, because these are things I struggled with. Can you be happy with what things are right now, with how things are right now? And that's something I would actually repeat. Can you just be okay with how things are? Can you just be okay with how things are? And I found that personally has helped me get over tough situations. Because sometimes we're just moving backwards in our mind or forward, and we just need to stop and say, can you just be okay with how things are? Can you love a person for who and what they are right now, even if it's difficult? Can you do that with yourself? Because if you cannot, then it's very difficult not only to be happy, but to love. And so we're always finding and trying to find our balance, or forced to find, in love, or flat on our face, our balance. And so there's a quote by Neem Karoli Baba. He was the teacher of Ram Dass. Even when you're angry, never throw anyone out of your heart. And some of his students would say, when he was mad, you would know that he still loved you. And I think that's something as parents we need to remember with our kids. They're very sensitive. And when we do punish them and we do show that we're disappointed or displeased, we got to make sure we also let them feel that we haven't thrown them out of our heart completely. Because it's terrifying to think that your mother or father or caretaker doesn't love you, and that they might not love you again. And to us that might sound ridiculous, but to a young person, they might actually believe it if they feel it. And then someone else added a quote, sometimes you must throw people out of your life, but never throw them out of your heart. And it's kind of the same idea. So that's the idea of unconditional love, kind of applying it towards yourself a bit. And hopefully some of you took something from it.